Yellow, yellow. Hey, Sergey. How are you doing? It's a little bit of a chaotic week slash month this week, but we're here. Yeah, back for another portfolio review. These streams always take me by surprise for some reason. Well, they did the same to me too, so you're not the only one. Because I actually realized that it was today, and then also that it was that the clocks had gone back or forth like an hour this weekend. And then the Discord was telling me another thing, so I was surprised from like all sides basically. But yeah, we're here now. That's all that matters. I think also, from the looks of it, we need to find a different thing for the portfolio reviews. Because I'm going to be honest here, right? So I'm going to be open and honest. Most of these portfolio reviews are a little bit repetitive, as you may have noticed yourself, right? So I don't know. I'm kind of getting to like the end of what I feel like where's the value that is that I can add. What I'm thinking of doing though, like I would kind of love to turn it into like an event that we do like every 3 months when it happens on what is it? There's a holiday, right? Like portfolio reviews. What is that called again? Portfolio Day. That's the one. So I'm kind of tempted to honestly host like a bigger event like every 3 months and then have like a bunch of other people doing it rather than doing this on like a monthly basis because it is a bit repetitive. Ooh. But yeah. Is this a rerun? It is not. I might have just fucked up the time and the date of it. Let me see. It is 2024. I was just being lazy over here. Thank you so much. Yeah, just that. Those are my thoughts. I do really enjoy like the the chat that we have in the beginning though. So I don't know. Maybe I'll bring back the idea of an AMA and maybe do something around that again. I think because those are fun. I have a lot of fun with those. I think honestly the portfolio reviews, this might be the last one that we do for a while at least. And then we'll see what we do with the format. Kind of change it because it also doesn't help that I'm not excited to do it, right? So I just wanted to say that. Yeah, potentially the last one, Hudson. So my reason there is that a lot of it is just the same thing, you know? Like it gets very repetitive. I don't know. Like I would honestly rather have a like an AMA or something like that where we can talk about a lot of different stuff like every time rather than looking at 3 additional people. So I don't know. That's just my raw feelings out there, right? I haven't really said that to anyone else. I mean, I feel it. You know, like that's the way that I can describe it. Probably best describe it. Yeah. We've been transported to the past. We're back in 2024. What was happening in 2024? I just moved here, I think. Oh no, I wasn't even living here. I was still living in Berlin at that point. Oh my god. Let me open the window. It's getting toasty in here. Okay. Last time we talked for a long time, it was good. Yeah. Tim moves a lot. Yes, Tim is also quite tired of moving a lot. Zayad is saying, wait, it's a Tuesday to stream. Should it be on a Wednesday? No. I mean, I got the timing wrong, but my timing wasn't that wrong that I was off by an entire day. So every first Tuesday of the month, I used to do, or I do portfolio reviews. And then Wednesday is a time when I talk about feedback. Just had the team challenge meeting and wasn't expecting a stream. Oh, yeah. How are the team challenges going? So for people that don't know, we're currently running our biggest, well, technically biggest by applicants, I guess, like team challenge where Groups of five people get together for 5 weeks and they make like one environment together. They just started their first week, so the heat is on to all the teams. So I'm excited to see what everyone's going to be building. It's going to be good. Let me actually run down for the drink real quick because I forgot my bottle of water. In the meantime, though, how is everyone else doing? And if you have any questions as I'm gone, then feel free to drop them in the chat. Sorry for this. I'll be right back. All right, we are back. Hudson is asking, I wonder what new format you're thinking. The AMA is good, totally, but that depends on how many are tuning in. Yeah, I mean, it's just gonna. I feel like all of it depends on how many people are tuning in, right? Because that's sort of the measurement that I use to see if it's like an interesting event for people or not. And I feel whenever you have like more dynamic content, when you have like people coming in with questions or you have people talking about stuff, that makes for a more dynamic thing. So the format can inspire more questions compared to, I don't know, portfolio review, where it's just like, let's talk about this. Cool, cool, cool. Let's talk about this. Cool, cool, cool. And most of the cool things that I bring up is just like the same, just in different configurations. But yeah. Yeah, maybe an AMA. I want to do something new, something exciting. Bring the podcast back. Oh, if only I had the time to do it. It takes so much time. Especially with all the other stuff that we're doing as well. God damn it. It always comes back to bite me in the ass. Eshu's probably replying on the AI prompts. So, AI prompts about Studio Ghibli have been popular lately, at least in my country, even automated graphic design stuff. It is good, and that's my main line of work. But that isn't something new, right? I mean, Chat GPT 4, whatever the hell they're using, that's nothing new. Like, there were other companies doing the same thing already. Yeah, it's a new filter, but I'm like, to me, my opinion like quickly wears off because Midjourney could do the stuff too, you know? So I don't know, I'm not that impressed anymore with it. I feel like we kind of hit the peak where, oh my god, ChatGPT is losing investor money and they're going for another round of investment. So quick guys, pump something new out. And then it's like, oh, we have this image generation thing. I don't know. Am I too skeptical? Too cynical? Perhaps. But I don't really care about it anymore. The new part is that more people are using it now. Boomers are starting to use it. I mean, but they were doing that before as well, right? I mean, all the stuff that I see on Facebook, the ones in like 10 years I go on it, it's just like faked like Jesus pictures and all that kind of stuff to just like trap people in, especially the older generation, trap them into like some sort of scheme, right? To like rip them off. I don't know. I do have to be honest, I'm spending way less time on social media. Like, just way less. I will probably check, I don't know, I barely go on X because all the stuff on there is now junk. Like, my entire feed is just gone gone to shit. I used to really enjoy Twitter and X even, because I had a lot of like artist friends and they were constantly sharing their work and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, I felt my algorithm change and it would just throw me in like random fights and bait content and all that kind of stuff, literally from like one day to the next. And I was like, wait, like I don't want to see any of this. And that's probably the day that I stopped using it. So I'm probably the most active on LinkedIn. I feel like LinkedIn is probably the best place to be on right now, in my opinion. Might depend on your personal feed, right? But I don't know. Maybe I should too. I guess so. I think you can. I think you can curate. Well, see, like because I've seen the same thing about LinkedIn, right, Escher? I've seen a lot of people say the same thing, that any sort of platform, like they have like some sort of randomization built in, that if you like that, it's probably good, but if you don't, then it's gonna just put you off. But yeah, it's oh, that is very true though. I do get a ton of like AI related stuff on LinkedIn, because they have gotten into the game dev space now, right? So like there's a lot of AI related game dev stuff now, which is just really annoying because it just comes down to keywords, right? If you have a company that's interested in doing like game dev stuff, but they have like AI slapped on top of it, and even if it doesn't like really serve anyone's purpose, they're still trying to make the most of just like money coming into the space, right? Where we as game devs, we still get all those ads, even though we don't want to see like anything AI generated. Just build your algorithm to only have brain rot. Oh my god. You can completely have a non-algorithmic feed if you want. Let's see. Well, I quit Twitter for Blue Sky, and you have much more powerful creation tools there, so I'm having a much better time. I think so. I just never. Maybe this is the point where I got tired. You know. I got into, okay, this is very specific, but kind of started with Netlog, which was like a Benelux thing. So Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg had their own social network for a while. Then we switched to MySpace. Then we switched to Facebook. Then we switched to Instagram. Then we switched to Twitter. Then we switched to LinkedIn. Then we switched to I'm a little bit tired, you know? And now I see Blue Sky and I'm just like, just another one. Oh, and in between, there were like a whole bunch of ones that were promised to be the next thing that just died over time. I can't even remember most of their names. There was Vero was one of them that I remember signing up to. That is no longer around, I think. Then you got like the social media for artists. That was kind of going to be like the Art Station killer, like art with 4 R's. Does anyone remember that one? I don't know. It is just all over the place, and I'm tired of just being on the thing. Oh no, it's good, right? Like I think Kara is still around. Yeah, I think Kara would actually be a good one to kind of invest some time into, I feel. But at this point, I gotta be honest, I got so tired that if I can't automate it, like I'm not using it. It sounds so silly, but I would rather have. So here's my sort of setup now, right? I would rather have conversations with real people on Discord, like in our community or whatever, hang out with a bunch of people there, which I do like almost on a daily basis now, compared to maybe trying to connect on like a social media platform. I think I'm kind of going more towards that route. Silly cats would be cool though. An algorithm full of silly cats. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on like the social media stuff. I mean, it's, if you are getting into it, right? I would definitely say invest in, or like not invest, it sounds such a weird thing to say, but definitely go out there and explore different kind of social media, right? And just pick the one that you like. Yeah, because that's definitely to the benefit. That's what I did in the beginning of my career as well. I was writing on like 4 different forums. I was active on like 3 different social media platforms, and then over time I was like, oh, I like this one the most, I'm gonna stick here. Really good point. I'll go detox. Thanks so much, everyone. You don't have to. I mean, unless it gets really bad, you don't have to. I borrowed my niece's YouTube account, like kids account, and the shorts are pure garbage. Fuck's sake. Oh, what are we doing about the damn kids? Think of the kids. No, but that's great though, Aisher. Like, I like that you're not tired yet, because for the longest time I was trying to fight like the cynicism, right? And I still do. Like, it's an active battle, and I think I'm gonna fight that battle until I kind of give up. But there's moments I kind of go in waves where I'm like, I'm just gonna disconnect from everything, and then I'll see like a bunch of new stuff, and I'm like, ooh, let's check it all out. But yeah, Chaba is coming in asking a question. This is a great reminder for if you have a question about the industry. Maybe try to do portfolio reviews, but just once per month. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. It is just a tiring format, because every month I have to say the same thing. That's the way that I feel about it. I think honestly, and this is echoed by a bunch of my peers as well, where it's probably way better to put a video out there with all the things that we always discuss, and then just have that as like a point of referral for everyone. But yeah, let me see, what was I saying? So if you have any questions about the video games industry, about environment art, about personal development, any of that stuff, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll talk about it, like Chaba does. So Chaba is asking, do you think the games industry is going to bounce back? Oh yeah, the games industry is not going to go anywhere. I think what is going to happen with the games industry right now, there's a lot of fear, but you also have to look at the data that is still there, right? Like, games are still selling. Maybe not the games that you would expect to sell a lot are maybe not selling, but there's still games that are selling like crazy, right? So the games industry is just like shifting and evolving to the next phase, because we got to this point where like AAA development is so expensive and it's so risky, especially in the stage of like live service, right? Where you have a couple of companies who were like really quick to adapt to that trend and really invest a ton of man hours and a ton of money into it to make it really profitable. But if you've not done that, and if your company wasn't in that position to do it, you kind of got caught in the middle where, oh, we're still focusing all of our effort on these like outdated things, or even like live service games, but we don't have enough money to like fully go into it. And that's what you need to do as like a live service game, right? I mean, just look at Fortnite, right? Fortnite started out as like a multiplayer tower defense kind of game, right? The reason why I know that is because I bought it in the beginning and I played it, and that game was not going to go anywhere. But then they saw what PUBG was doing, and they were like, we need to get on that. And they even got into like a lawsuit because PUBG was like, hey, we've built this game, and then they come in and kind of steal our idea and they just throw like Epic Games money at it. Like, what the hell? I don't know what happened with that lawsuit anymore, but yeah. So they pivoted really quick to make this really interesting game, sort of with the same fundamentals that they already had, right? But they pivoted really quick and threw all their money in there, and it paid off big time. But yeah. A realistic versus a stylized portfolio. So here's the thing, right? Like, there will be common things between a stylistic and a realistic portfolio that are going to apply to both of them. You want to see the correct game art workflows being used, right? That's always going to apply. You also want to showcase like breakdowns. So you want to break down your work and say, hey, this is the topology, this is the amount of textures that I'm using, this is how big the textures are, like show the wireframes, all that kind of stuff. That is going to apply to like a realistic and stylistic portfolio no matter what. Because at a certain point, what happens is you do have to keep it very generic, because as soon as you go in and you make it specific, you don't. So I, as a person here critiquing your portfolio, I've always felt that I don't have enough context to give you an accurate representation of catering your portfolio towards like a job, right? So let me explain that a little bit better. So let's say I'm pretending here and I'm giving you advice on your stylized portfolio. I don't know what kind of jobs are out there. So that's really hard, right? Because you could have stylized as in like, oh, Overwatch or World of Warcraft. They use very different things, right? So what do you focus on, right? So I tend to keep the advice like very high level and just, hey, here are the common things that we use in the games industry. Here are the workflows that are current and are upcoming, right? So focus on those two things. But when it comes to the specific style, honestly, the specific style doesn't really matter as much as you think it does. It's more the adaptability towards a style that is going to be more relevant. For example, in the beginning, I had like a realistic portfolio, I would say. And I could I got hired to work on a stylized game. My first game that I worked on was Planet Coaster, right? That game is stylized. But you still use like the same workflows, just the style is going to be a little bit different. Tim, how can we adapt to your work attitude? That is a good question. I don't think you necessarily need to, because I think that I kind of got lucky with a relentless work attitude that I had from my dad. So I got kind of blessed with that, right? My dad loves working. My dad just absolutely loves. I love working too. Like, I love going to work, especially when it's something like really engaging. I love running Beyond Extend because that's really engaging to me. Like, I love doing that stuff, right? I really do. And especially even when I said in the beginning, like, hey, maybe I'll think about doing something else with portfolio reviews, right? That opportunity where I can like shift and kind of try some new stuff, that is super engaging to me. That's what I like about this. Eric, we're gonna be looking at some portfolios, but unfortunately not yours. At least not today. Because in the beginning, I was kind of saying that this might be the last portfolio review that we do. So who knows? Let's see. Because you mentioned before that you have procrastination. Oh yeah, yeah. Everyone does. There's only so much time that you can effectively squeeze out of your day. If you're doing so, the way that I try to balance my time out is I try to think it as like a battery, right? I use my battery for like highly creative work that requires like full brain power. But a lot of my time during the day, I don't use a lot of brain power. So for example, because I've been modeling for such a long time, I don't use any brain power when modeling, right? Like, especially when it's just like when I have more on board ethics and not 3D. Yeah. I know. We'll potentially get back to that as well. But yeah, no. Like I feel. Yeah, there's so much to go into there, right? Man. But yeah, everyone has procrastination. There's only so much you can squeeze out of your day, right? But yeah, when it comes to the actual work ethics, the main thing that helps is having a clear goal. Like if you know what you want to do, and for most people, that is, let's start with most people, right? I want to work in the games industry. That is an okay goal, but it's not like an accurate goal, right? And if you want to have a really clear goal, you need to be accurate with your goals. So for me, it was a little bit different. So I'll give myself as an example, and then I'll give an example that other people can follow. So for me, it was always, I want to create worlds. Always. It has always been that. Ever since I was drawing stuff, I was drawing worlds, I was building 3D worlds. I've always loved the idea of a world, and I'm still chipping away at it. Like I'm still building up all the skills to be able to create like more developed, more interesting worlds, right? So that is my goal. And I said keep them specific, right? But that is just my North Star. I want to get better at worlds, at world creation. But if I were to say like, hey, if you don't know what your goal is, and if you start with a goal like I want to get into the games industry, try to narrow it down. Like try to be like, okay, I want to work on this game, this type of game, this company, anything that you can find, no matter what you can say on top of it, right? So for example, I I always wanted to work for Bethesda, right? I always wanted to work on like a Fallout game. Fallout games were like the best thing in the world to me. I played all of them. Yeah, even 76. I love them, maybe not as much as I used to do, but that was like my main driving force. I want to work on like a Fallout game sometime. The issue with that is though that you get like too narrow, and you stuff changes. Like the company changes, the people at the company change, like the projects change. Like there's some stuff that you don't have in your control, and that will change your opinion over time. So I would say that that's no longer the case where I want to work on a Fallout game, right? I don't really have that ambition anymore because I worked on like a bunch of other cool projects. So now my North Star is kind of switching to working on these bigger projects. So like, no, I kind of just want to work on my own thing and make it really cool again, right? So yeah, I don't know. That is by far the biggest thing when it comes to work ethics. If you have a goal, if you have something that keeps you in line, that is the most important thing. Because if you're just wandering aimlessly, like you're just setting yourself up for procrastination, right? You're just going to be wandering around. That's not what you want to do. Um, I'll narrow it down by just having a work related in 3D, but that's super broad, right? Because you're not even describing like the industry that you want to be in. So you're gonna be all over the place, right? Because let's say just having a work related in 3D, well, there's two ways of seeing that, right? Like either you're setting the bar pretty low, that once you get it, it's like, okay. Because arguably there's like easy jobs that you get in 3D, but are you gonna have fun like making someone else's setup in like an IKEA setup? Maybe not, right? Or maybe you do, and that's fucking great. But you see what I'm saying? Like you could kind of set yourself up for like, oh, I just want to have any work in 3D. Cool. I'm just gonna apply to like an IKEA store and make someone else's kitchen. Not that there's anything wrong with it, right? But you kind of have to set a bar somewhere where you can have something to strive towards. That's also a big one. I mean, no, Hudson, I don't think you're wrong necessarily. I think you're just trying to figure it out, right? Which is totally fine. I to a certain degree was kind of lucky that I had this North Star from the beginning where I wanted to make worlds, right? And I know again that's like a really broad thing, but that is like I still want to do that. Like that hasn't wavered at all. Like drawings from like 20 years ago was about worlds and I'm still making them today, right? Because yeah, so much cool stuff you can do with it. Dun, dun, dun. Which is more comfortable for working, standing or sitting? More comfortable? Oh, definitely sitting. 100%. Not necessarily better for you, because I sit down a lot. Yeah, but definitely sitting, especially if you have a good chair. Oh my god. Escher is asking, what if your professional goal is different than your passion? That is a good question. But I also feel that that is normal. Because my professional goals... Let me try to break it down. That's a good question, actually. It's just... So my professional goals now are not really necessarily aligned with making art per se, because I feel like I'm pretty comfortable with that at this point, especially for the needs of current day AAA developments. So I guess my professional goal would be, hey, I want to help other people achieve their goals. That is sort of more and more where I'm kind of seeing myself in, right? And then my passion is still, I want to build worlds, right? So I've kind of set up this way where I'm slowly inching towards like combining the two in some way. Right now, it's still very... Ideally, what I want to do is kind of switch the two around, where I can... well, maybe not around, but like combine them in Beyond Extend, right? So what I mean by that is we're building a course, right, with Beyond Extend, and it would be cool if I can make the jump to do that full time again, run the course, help other people to do it, while also building worlds together with people that I love working with as well, and just setting up my own like world with concept art and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, you got to also bring in money at a certain point, right? So there's the whole business aspect of it as well. So I feel there's nothing wrong with having the two, right? It just depends on how you can design your own life. It sounds so esoteric, right? Like it sounds so broad, but like you just have to find a balance that works for you. Because I currently do enjoy like the stuff that I'm doing. So I do art for 8 hours a day, and then I do mostly helping other people and organizing other people to get better at what they do for like the rest of my time in the evening, right? And I love that balance. Up until a point where like I'll play a game and I just don't get fulfillment from games anymore necessarily, because I get so much fulfillment out of the stuff that I do on like a day-to-day basis. But that is something that you have to slowly but surely work your way towards, right? And this took me it took me my entire career to get to this point, right? And there were definitely points where it was like way out of balance. For example, in the beginning, a lot of it was focused on me doing art 8 hours a day, then coming home and doing challenges on ArtStation for 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours even, and then going to sleep and doing it again. And that destroys you after a certain point, right? At least it did for me, because it's so focused on a singular thing that that it becomes like very repetitive and very, very stale, right? So there's nothing necessarily wrong with it. Let's get into that in just a bit, Hudson. Soviet was asking, how do I stop being afraid of software like ZBrush and Designer? I find myself procrastinating around them, even though I should be using them. Well, the question is, why are you using them? Why do you think you should be using them? Because there's this, what is the saying again? Where the pain of staying the same becomes bigger than the pain of changing, or something like that. So basically you get to the point where you just have to, and then you will click into gear and you will have to, right? But if you never find yourself in that spot, there's never a reason to, right? And what we usually have to do with our brain is that we have to trick our way into things, where I'm like, hey, if I don't learn Designer, I'm never going to be able to make good titleables, so I will never be able to become an environment artist, right? And if your goal is to like, hey, if I want to become an environment artist, if that is my real goal, like you will get to do designer. Because if you're not, you're pushing that goal further and further away, right? And are you okay with procrastinating for 10 years? Right? Like what happens if you don't do it? Sometimes that can be really helpful as well, where you can just ask yourself like, okay, if I do it, I can become this. If I don't do it, like I'm not making any progress, right? So where do I want to go? And is that thing getting me closer to that? Also, an interesting question to yourself is, what are you curious about? What are you naturally interested in? Because, for example, for me, I've never been naturally interested in making layers in Substance Painter and spending a whole bunch of time making like a really detailed prop. Never my thing. I love tinkering. I love combining things together and just like trying new stuff and building bigger things, even if they don't look as good individually. I would love to focus on the bigger stuff, right? So there is an element there where if you don't naturally gravitate towards those things, maybe that's also a sign of you not really engaging with it, right? Could also be a thing. But there's only one person that knows that, and that's you. Hudson is saying substance designer is like cry first, enjoy later type of deal. It's hard to get into at first if you don't deal with nodes. I love designer, even if I have to do like small things. So let's say if I if I have to get like the blue channel from like a texture, I'll do that in designer. I won't even open Photoshop. I love designer so much. Our questions are getting more and more into the existential and life purposes side of things. I mean, look, like I feel like to me, like the artistic journey is also a journey of like self-discovery, you know? Like the amount of self-reflection that I get to do by building the next project. And I'm like, oh, I never really realized that I had such an affinity towards like medieval stuff, right? I've built like a medieval project for the last, well, I was working on it for like the last 3 years. When I started that, I never really had a clue that I was so interested in medieval stuff until I just started consciously looking at what I was doing. And I was like, okay, so maybe I do. Maybe I do like that stuff. And then you can ask yourself the question of like, okay, why? Why do I like it? And it probably has something to do with like, you know, like all the MMOs that I played back in the day, and like just the fantasy of just like the stereotypical like RPG fantasy and doing stuff with that. Yeah. That's what I really like about art. It's so self-reflective, and it teaches you so much about yourself as well. Graphic design is my current job, 6+ years experience, but I'm starting to bore. Well, yeah, so I think at a certain point, Hudson, you're then going to get to a point where the pain of you just doing graphic design is going to get so heavy that you will just do anything to get a different job, right? Or, I mean, you have the other option as well, just to settle into the boredom and just be fine with it. That's also an option. I just never liked option 2. But there's also people that do really enjoy option 2. Don't get me wrong. They just want to do the work 8 hours, go home, have a lovely life, right? Like just enjoy whatever they want to do. And that is fine too. There's always been a part of me that kind of envies those people as well, where they can just like shut off and just do nothing. Well, or do the stuff like their hobbies and focus on other stuff, like in the evenings as well. So, yeah. Especially if it pays good. Yeah, everyone kind of has their own values when it comes around like the pay, right? The amount of money that comes in. Of course, there's like a lower limit of like, hey, we need to be able to like afford food on the table. And that just gets bigger with more dependencies on you, right? So let's say you have a family and kids and all that kind of stuff. Then getting a good paying job and is good, but then also switching out of it is like, ooh, I'm taking a huge risk because now we have this family and it's going to cut into our expenses and so yeah, it's a balance that you just have to strike yourself. Is it true that the environment artist is using more Substance Designer in doing the trim sheet workflow? They're both, you can make trim sheet work, you can make trim sheets in Substance Designer. So they're not separate from each other. It kind of depends on the studio size as well, whether you have a dedicated material artist that makes the materials for you, like all the trim sheets, or you have to set them up yourself. But most of the bigger developments, I would say now, if you are an environment artist, you will be spending a lot of time on actually applying those materials rather than making them yourself. Because yeah, especially AAA is so specialized now that that is what you will be doing. But of course, it's still good to have that on your portfolio though. All right. Speaking about portfolios, should we get into a couple then? Let's do 3 today. Oh no, we're sinking. Let's see. Where do we go? Portfolio review. Let's go. Cool. Yeah, thank you so much for the conversation. Like I said before, if you have any more questions about the video games industry, working on games, your personal work, any sort of shenanigans like that, feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll have a conversation about it. Yeah, Henrik was saying, that's me currently in the metal industry, but I think I will quit in a few years. Yeah, I used to work in the chemical industry as well as like a student job. So there's parts that I really liked about that as well, where the thing that I really liked is really physically exhausting yourself, then coming home and doing personal work. I loved the balance between the two because you're like, physically you're exhausted, but mentally you're still okay. So you can still do stuff like behind, after your work as well. I loved like the combination of the two. I really did. Let me get Epic Pen up in here. All right. A certified workaholic? Yeah, probably. I would not even dispute that. You mentioned, was it you, Hudson, that said that I wanted to get into concept art in the beginning? Let me see. Yeah, someone was saying that in the chat before, and there's still a part of me that wants to do that because I always the thing that seduces me about concept art is the speed of iteration and how quick you can get like a fully fledged idea like onto the table. So what I kind of want to do more in the future is I want to throw out most of the game art pipelines that I know and kind of just use that in my day job and then focus more on like environment concept art where I'll still make everything in 3D and then I'll do like paint overs or stuff on top of it if I need to. It's just there are no more positions that are pure concept artists today. It depends on what you define with pure concept artists. If you're talking about pure 2D, potentially, but there are still like a lot of concept artist positions out there. It is the thing that I've seen is that a lot of it got shifted to concept art studios. So what happens now is that a lot of studios will work with concept art studios to do the pre-visualization and then just go on to the next project, right? Because there's like a bunch of my friends that are still working in like concept art studios and houses and all that kind of stuff, where they just focus on purely the concept art and they work with like multiple clients all over. Yeah, there are concept art studios. There's a lot of them. Yeah, there are. Um, I'm trying to think. So one of the ones that I grew up with, but they're now no longer only a concept art studio, was Volta. A friend of mine used to work at Volta in Canada. Um, no, no, you still have departments or a team in house as well, right? Depending on the project. But it's more and more common that you also have just like a concept art studio where you hire them for like additional studio work. It's outsourcing, right? It's just concept art outsourcing. That's what it comes down to. What is another example of this? Let's see. I think. Yeah, so a friend of mine works here, so at Moon Colony, which is like, what do they describe themselves at? Concept art and illustration studio. So that's it. 2D art outsourcing for the video games industry. I remember the video Concept Art is Dead by Shadi Safadi. He runs a concept art studio. he runs one. So yeah, that's one of them. Mood Studios, I think, was one of them as well. There's like a bunch of them around. So yeah, concept art is definitely not dead. Yeah. It is definitely not dead. Because a lot of concept art focuses on the actual design and the actual integral parts of the world and the actual fundamental stuff that is, it's more than just visuals, right? It is helping other people curate what this world is going to be by already having like pictures that describe like certain sets of clothing, how people interact with the clothes, how the shapes are, all that kind of stuff is kind of baked into concept art and very specific. But yeah, there are a lot of concept art studios out there. Cool. Let's do some work here. So, Darrel Yap from Malaysia. Let's have a look at your work. Oh, a good start. Why is my pen not working? Please. Let's see. So, I have experience with Blender, Unreal Engine, and Unity. I enjoy creating 3D models and photorealistic environments. I'm currently a game art major studying at USC. I don't know what USC is, so always keep in mind that you might know where that is, but I have no clue. So try to spell it out where you say like university blah 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 at in Malaysia or something like that, right? And then also if you say I have experience with Blender, Unreal Engine, and Unity, try to specify a little bit more what kind of experience that is. Or maybe keep it even more broad where you say like, hey, I'm an environment artist that is really interested in creating historical worlds, right? Like sort of like historically accurate worlds, because I see like a lot of historical places in here. So try to kind of curate it towards like a certain type of audience as well. So you have environmental artist in here. Let's have a look. Do we have anything on the blog? Nothing. Yeah, then we have like a bunch of tags in here. Cool. Let's see. So this banner is cool, but it looks like it's outdated because I can't see it on your portfolio. So that is a little bit weird to me when you say like, hey, here's my favorite piece because it's my banner, but I no longer have it on my portfolio. So maybe it's just time to update the banner as well. Cool. First impressions are pretty good though. I like what you're doing here. Even from the thumbnails, I can already see like a good amount of growth as well. So I'm curious to just dive into it. Let's start out with the latest one. So posted 4 months ago. Okay, really quick. 6 months ago, 5 months ago. Sorry, we're just flashing all over because I want to see if this is in chronological order first, right? Let's start there. It's pretty cool though. Everything is modeled by yourself. Awesome. Okay, let's dive into the older one then. So, a remake from an older personal project. A lot of emphasis on lighting and composition for this current piece. Foliage was made in Speed Tree. Okay, so in this one, the modeling and the texturing is a little bit more simplified, right? Like, there's not a lot of attention to detail necessarily. And it's mostly just, yeah, it feels a little bit uniform, right? Like there's a lot of characters still missing. For example, here, like the titleable on the floor, you don't really have like an indication of people coming in and out of the house. It feels very sterile. It feels very 3D in the sense where everything feels like it's perfectly modeled and there's no character to the environment just yet. Also, you're trying to get away with some like really simple stuff here by just like slapping like a titleable on it, which kind of looks the same as this one over here. So you're kind of giving me like an indication that there's potentially like a lot of corner cutting that's happening at this stage already. Yeah, and especially if you look at the things by themselves, it becomes a little bit generic, right? But yeah, I just wanted to say that I know that this is not necessarily like an art review, right? But yeah. Let's see, in terms of portfolio review, I feel like all the content is pretty good here. I still want to see a little bit more dedication to the actual shot, right? Where you just have like the one killer shot. That's like your main shot that has like all the bells and whistles and all the attention to detail that you kind of want to see. Instead of, it kind of feels like just like a couple of throwaway shots of just like, hey, we're not even trying to focus you. This is just like a cool thing that I made. But the focus is literally pulling me in like a bunch of different directions, right? Because there's no real balancing happening at this point yet. So it's a little bit all over the shop. Let's see, you could do something really cool with like this main tower in the background as well. And then yeah, the presentation here, especially when it comes to black on black, right? Where you have, where you just have this really black background with like a black, with like a, oh, where's my little thingy gone? Yeah, you have like a black background with like a black chair, and I can barely distinguish like where one thing ends and one thing begins. Sometimes it would be cool if you already have like a modular kit that you can use, just build like the floor, the background, and just make it like you're presenting it on a stage, right? But you're building the stage yourself. That could be really interesting to do. So for example, just, I don't know, making sure that this is like closed off. It's just a flat wall, getting rid of these two assets. And then you have like a little stage that you made for yourself, right? If we just look at this as like a separate stage, you can kind of use that. We're also missing a lot of breakdowns, right? So in terms of how did you go about like applying your textures to your models? What can we learn from that? How smart were you? Where did you decide? Um, I never really played Mortal Kombat. Oh, me neither. Huh? Oh, I'm just talking about like a stage, as in like presenting. Oh, sorry, it's about Hudson. God damn it, I'm getting all over the place here. I have not played Mortal Kombat either. But yeah, so I kind of want to see like more breakdowns and just like go into like actually presenting the work that you've done, right? And give me all the game art goodness, like showcase like the places where you did do a smart reuse, even though it was at the expense of visual quality, right? Because then for us as a recruiter, we can then see like, okay, so you decided to do this, but you decided to then give up like, I don't know, the visual quality here a little bit. So that's a good trade-off, right? Cool. And if you, Darrel, you're in the chat as well. So something looked weird for a while and I couldn't identify it. Yeah, that would be a good one to reach out to people that you know and say like, hey, what do you think of this, right? Keep the question open-ended and let them bring up what they see in it. That could be cool. I do love like the... Honestly, I know this is going to sound silly, but if we cut out... Oh my god, the pen is so thick again. If we cut out like everything here, I really like what is happening with the colors that you bring to the table here, because you got like the very nice darkish blues and then the purple transitioning into the orange. Like that gradient, very suiting. Whereas like at the bottom, it's just full on orange, right? No sort of like intricacy when it comes to the uses of color. It is just like, no, the bottom, full orange. Give it a little bit of yeah, basically the same technique that you're doing here. Like get like a little bit of blue shadows in there. Don't make everything lit up. Yeah. Cool. Let's have a look at some of the other pieces though. I remember seeing this, but like way longer ago than 6 months. I think. Or maybe time is just hazy. So small little thing on the presentation here, where you see whenever you switch to a new scene and you see like Lumen coming in, I would honestly do a little bit of video editing and cut out the first couple of frames and just stitch them back together so that you kind of get rid of like the Lumen transition that you have, right? So for example, where was it in the beginning? Where all the lights are being turned on? That just looks really weird, even though that is like a Lumen thing. Like it's very normal to see that, right? But it's about that attention to presentation, that attention to detail, that is gonna help a lot. Abandoned train station. What is happening here? So we got like free us. Trash. End the tyranny. It is really generic in its storytelling, right? I think you can definitely push that like way further and actually go way more into storytelling and like really focus on, okay, if this is abandoned, I want to see very natural abandonment and really pay an extra attention to, okay, if it's abandoned, where does grass grow? Grass does not grow on tiles, right? Have the tiles ripped open, have the grass kind of like putting out of it, and have it all like very logical as well. Because that is the attention to detail that we're looking for, right? If you're doing something abandoned, take inspiration from The Last of Us or something like that, right? And then if you want to do a shot like this, for example, where you want to showcase, hey, this is where people are coming to rest and it's being used by like a bunch of hobos, play into that, right? Like exaggerate it, have them build up like their own little like have them build like their own little space where they have like a couple of couches, a couple of sofas, and they really made it their spot until they got kicked out or whatever. The middle parts were modeled out and the glass in it is an alpha. I wanted to make it pop up. Oh, is that? That's this stuff, I guess. Yeah, all this stuff. It feels very hastily done. Like, for example, this is a great example of this, right? An arch is not going to be constructed by just having like the same sort of bricks like lined up like that. They will usually curve with the arch because that gives like the most structural support, right? So as soon as you just start like adding a tileable without, I'll be pretty blunt here, right? Like without the actual attention to having that curve or actually knowing how it's constructed, it kind of feels really lazy at this point to me. Where it will probably look good from a distance. Same thing here, right? This is rotated compared to this tileable up here, which doesn't make sense, right? You kind of want to have like a consistency between building parts because that's how they will build in real life as well. So it is definitely missing that attention to detail, which I think just comes from trying to get a lot of stuff done in a short amount of time. Because if the actual timeline of these projects is sort of correct, right? Then you're almost putting out like, what is it? Like a scene every month. And in terms of speed, that's really good. But I would honestly rather have you focus on a more detailed scene that is more built on the intricacies than having something that, like Hudson says, looks good from farther away and it looks great. Because as soon as you zoom in, like it breaks down and it loses all its value. Right? So like in first impression, it might look good, but then if you start breaking it down, it falls apart. That's not really conducive to getting you a job, right? Which is what we're actually aiming to do here. So you kind of need to maintain that sort of like level to detail over that distance. So I would honestly rather have you focus on, let's say if it's only like a singular screenshot, but you make it the best thing that you have in your portfolio. I would love to see that compared to, oh, I want to go bigger, I want to go bigger, and I want to do it quicker and quicker. I think that's not necessarily going to be that helpful in a job hunt. Because yeah, like again, like the textures they function, right? But again, they're very basic. Like they're sort of missing like a roughness map even. Like they're very bland in their response, right? I know that I'm being very direct here, right? But bear with me. Because yeah, I mean, there is a part of this where if you do not pay attention to the small stuff, like anyone who does will easily overtake you, right? And that is especially, that's never been more true than in this job market as well, right? So it is definitely that attention to detail that is going to be just setting yourself apart from like everyone else, right? Let's see. So in terms of like the portfolio presentation, I actually like most of these shots. The shots are really good. I this is not personally for you, right? I've never really seen like the unlit value. Like maybe maybe what you could do if you really want to showcase this, have like a GIF that cycles through detailed lighting, unlit, and all that kind of stuff. Potentially. This is also an interesting dream sheet, but I would love to see it in context, right? So what I usually advise is if you give me something to look at, I want to see how it's used. So I want to be able to see from like a singular screenshot to just say like, okay, let's say this is the screenshot that I have. Okay, this is my trim sheet. And these are some like assets where they're used on. Right? And then it's like, okay, this is also a 2K texture. Cool. And make it really informative, right? Like give me all the information on one sheet where I can be like, okay, this trim sheet is used here, here, and here. Oh, that's actually pretty smart. That's pretty cool. Okay, what is the size of this? Oh, it's 2K. That's actually pretty good for this size. And give me like all the information that I can really like digest it properly, right? Because the way that I will be looking at this now is I would look at this and then I would be like, okay, so where are they used? Where are they used? Oh yeah, on the building. Okay. But what I just did, a lot of people are not going to bother with that, right? Just the plain reality of it, right? Where if you want me to search for things, then a lot of people are not going to do that unless they are already like really engaged and really interested in what you bring to the table, and then they will put in the effort. But you're kind of trying to sell them on your portfolio now, right? Same for the textures as well. It's always nice to have like, hey, here's where they're used. That's cool. Got the blacksmith props as well. Let's point out some stuff here. There seems to be some stuff going wrong with the normals. The normals are kind of just like screwed up on all these baskets. Yeah, so that would definitely be something to watch out for. And the trees they look okay-ish. I would give you, okay, so going back to our previous point, right, where I would love to see you focus more on the details. I would honestly say ditch foliage for a second and just use megascans or whatever, up the quality of the actual environment. And then if you want to get better at foliage, I would break that off into like a separate project and then say, okay, I'm just going to focus on foliage right now, and I'm going to get really good at speed tree, and I'm going to make a foliage project that is only dedicated to foliage, right? That allows you to focus on one skill, really bump it up real quickly, and then get it on your portfolio, and then you can then use that skill in your next project again, right? So you're kind of trying to maximize for your portfolio. Yeah, and then we have this material screenshot over here, which I would love to see like an interactive demo, right? Where you showcase, hey, this is the material that I'm using and this is how I'm using it in the scene. I can change this, I can change that, and we can see a change with a video rather than a screenshot of your material. Again, it's a lot of this is about perception, right? The perception of a screenshot like this to me is that, oh, you didn't have time, so you just added like a screenshot of your material, right? And I might be wrong, but that is the perception that I get, right? So that is not a perception that you want to give to someone who is actually looking into your portfolio, right? You want to take care into every step of the way. And usually presentation is a step that we skip, right? Because we spend so much time working on the actual environment already that we tend to skip over the presentation of it. But the presentation is super important. Like if we don't, you probably know this, right? But if you have a really kick-ass prop and it looks really good, but then you put it in a shitty light, the prop is gonna look ugly as hell, right? What we're kind of doing here is we're kind of doing the same thing, right? Like we spend so much time on this environment and it looks good, and then you put it on your portfolio and you just have like this okay-ish presentation, and it just drags the whole thing down again. Whereas, for example, I mean, there are so many examples. If you can embed some sort of consistency throughout the presentation, I'll bring up. He'll love this. I'll bring up a buddy of mine that I work with, and he recently published like his latest project. But everything that he did in the presentation, well, this is a collaborative project with like two of them, but like everything is kind of built as it was like in game or like in world, right? So it's like, oh, this is a magazine and everything is kind of in a magazine, and then you have like even their little cards, right, that they did for the presentation, everything is kind of just done with that in mind. And that's the sort of thing that I want more people to look at as well, because I think that can add like real value to your portfolio. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the latest one then. For this project, I wanted to put a larger emphasis on lighting, color, and composition. Recently, I found myself putting too much focus on environmental storytelling rather than making the scene look good. So this is an interesting one. Yeah, he did. He did. I know. In here though, you say recently I found myself putting too much focus on environmental storytelling rather than making the scene look good. You got to be careful with statements like this, because you're basically opening yourself to critique when it comes to making the scene look good, right? Because you're saying, hey, this scene looks way better because I kind of forgot about environmental storytelling for a little bit, which is, you should always be doing environmental storytelling, no matter how good or bad the scene looks. That is the core thing about environment, like environment art, right? That is your main principle as an artist. So I would be a little bit careful with statements like this. Cool. It's really cool that you do everything yourself though. Like, I know that I've been pretty direct this session, but it's really cool that you try to do everything yourself. I can recognize myself in that as well. I would try to break out of that. It's hard. If someone would say this to me, I would also be like, no, I'm not going to listen to you. You don't know what you're talking about. But I would say the easiest thing would be foliage, right? Like just use foliage that is available, or use it from Megascans or whatever, and skip that part altogether and just focus on the things that matter, right? So for example, if you decide for this project, I want to put an emphasis on lighting, color, and composition, which is good. I mean, I feel like you did a good job on the composition, but you still had to make a whole scene to get to the thing that you wanted to focus on, right? So maybe in that case, if you really want to train how to get better at lighting, color, and composition in this example, right? The better way to do that is by just grabbing the monthly free asset packs and just doing little compositions and do 10 of them with pre-existing assets. Because that allows you to focus way more on the amount and the iteration than having to make a whole scene so that you can just get to the part that you want to train yourself on, right? There's actually and then you can use that training that you did as a thing of like, hey, I done like 10 compositions. I really liked like these guys. So, oh my god, is this gonna keep pinging? Get out of here. Cool. So, why did ArtStation add a sound effect? I know they've always had that though. What was I saying? So, yeah, that's a quicker way to iterate on the things that you want to iterate on, right? That would be a suggestion there. Cool. That being said, I think honestly you have a really, really solid basis, right? I mean, basis is probably like underselling it a little bit. I think you really have an affinity towards like environments, right? Which is definitely what I emphasize with 100%. What I do want to see more though is especially a focus on storytelling. To be fair, we're gonna look at the Viking scene really quick. So we're getting some stuff here, right? And you're lighting it up as well. I would love to see more emphasis on the storytelling elements. So storytelling would be like the one main thing. Really focus on that, because that is going to be your bread and butter as an environment artist. Number two would be focus on smaller but more detailed. Yeah, in the meantime, feel free to ask your questions, Darrel. Free to pop them in the chat. And then number three for me. Let's see. So we got storytelling, we got focusing on the smaller and detailed. Yeah, a lot of breakdowns, right? I want to see how you build these things. Cool. So that would be my little recap. So number one is storytelling. I really want to see more of that for sure, and like a bigger focus on it too. And really go into it. Okay, like Vikings playing chess, like in a mead hall, is good, but I kind of want to see like who's behind that as well, right? Like think about, yeah, why are they feasting? Like where did they come back from? Like why are they playing chess? Like, I mean, there's so many cool angles that you can take with that as well. Because in most of the things, what you actually focused on was there's a, to me, there's always been a separation between location logic and environmental storytelling. The way that I split them up is like location logic is, okay, this is a train station, it's abandoned. Okay, we have all this overgrowth coming in. That means that the tiles are going to be ripped up and all that kind of stuff. How is the foliage coming in? How does that have an effect on the environment itself? That is really cool, right? But that's more the logic of the location. The environmental storytelling is, okay, what happened in this location? So then you can start telling, like, okay, if we want to focus on, let's say, this guy over here, right? If let's say this is my focus point, which could be cool because then we're focusing on like, hey, there's like a bunch of like random homeless people that are just using this as a base, or maybe it's like a little shelter that they built or something like that. We need to be able to focus that, focus our view more towards that and make that a bigger thing, because now we see the building and it's pretty generic in its approach, but I want to see more focus on like the individual storytelling, what happened with the people inside of it, right? Cool. Right. So you have two questions. Number one is the question that everyone asks, but I can never get a good answer to. And I'll explain why. So, how far would I be from an entry level with this portfolio? The reason why I cannot answer that is because it depends on your location. It depends on the studios that you have in your location. It depends on your personal situation. It depends on the state of the industry right now. Because the thing is, there's only one real way to answer this question, and that is by trying. Try it, send it out to like 100 studios. If you get a job, that's good. But what I don't want to do as an answer to this question, I don't want to say, no, you're not ready. Because that is gonna stop you from potentially getting a job that you could potentially have right now, right? Which is like really unfair, and I wouldn't want to do that. So yeah, unfortunately, I can never really answer that question. Because that depends on the state of the industry. So the best thing that you could do is just send it out to like a bunch of studios. Like I'm literally talking hundreds, right? Like any studio that you can find. When they have an open position, just send it to them and see what they say back. And if out of 100, no one replies, then it's time to get back to the grindstone, right? And like try to do more work, try to optimize your portfolio, try to get better again. And do that. That's like a test that you're doing, like a test every 6 months or something like that, let's say. And then the second question is, what pieces should I remove from the portfolio? That is also another test for you. What I would do, if you already had your doubts, that means that there is something about this piece that you kind of want to remove. So I would remove this one. I think, let me just have a quick peek at some of them. Some of them again. Yeah. The interesting thing that happens is that in terms of the skills that you're showcasing, these four are very similar. So I would potentially remove this one and then keep these four and then just do what I said, right, in the recap. Potentially go smaller, focus way more on storytelling and focus way more on the actual quality rather than the scope of the environment. That's what I would focus on next. I think the best balance that you could do is, let's say you would elaborate on a setup like this, right? Where you have like the focus on the actual chess area, and then you have like the mead hall as the backdrop. But right now, there's no difference between the two. It just feels like the whole thing is like the backdrop for something, right? Because nothing is standing out to me just yet. And I want you to kind of figure that out first, where showcase like a story to me, like a story that is like intriguing and like drags me into the picture, and then I can look at the background and get like more context for that story. So yeah, I would remove this one and then currently keep these four until you iterate and make like better projects after this one. I know that I've been very strict. I know that I've been very upfront about all this. But yeah, it's always in the ambition of like, I want you to do better, right? And you have a love, you have a passion for environment art. That is like undeniable. Like the speed, if like the posting date like roughly matches the way that you're like pumping all these environments out, that is awesome, right? That is something to be proud of, and that's something to be like glad of, that you have that internal drive. We just need to slightly harness that drive in a different way so that we're focusing on more quality than more quantity. Because at large, you could have 2 pieces on your portfolio and get hired. You can also have 10 pieces on your portfolio and never get hired. Yeah. It all comes down to the quality of them, right? That's what it all comes down to. And another thing that I'll bring up, like the last thing before we go into the next person, is think about the way that the industry handles with a bigger scope, right? Like really think about it. Because the way that studios handle a bigger scope is by adding more people on top of it, right? So bigger teams, bigger scope. So that means on your portfolio, it's good to showcase that you can do a bunch of those things as well. But I also want to see what you're really good at, right? Like what you really shine. And carve out like a little space for yourself as an environment artist. Yeah. Thanks so much for submitting your portfolio, Darrel. I really appreciate it. Like I said, a little bit of tough love here, but I do really like the way that you're going about it. And again, that passion, that drive, I love to see it, man. So I'll be keeping my eye on this. And I'm curious to see more of it. So thank you for posting. Makes sense. Thanks for the feedback. I really learned a lot. Thank you for posting it, Darrel. Appreciate it. Cool. Let's go on to the next person then. Dopamine from the notification of artists making better art than me. Makes you think why there isn't unique sounds for notifications, huh? So I'll go one step further. Like, just ignore ArtStation until you have something to post. Do it. Because I honestly feel that a lot of people use it as, oh, I'm just getting inspired by other people. But I think for most people, it actually has a negative effect on their inspiration, to be honest. Yeah, like Megfal says, how am I supposed to get anxiety? If you have this internal drive, so I have this, right? And it kind of has its own toxic properties as well, especially I've gotten way better at it now. But as a student, what I would do is I would see fellow students publish way better work. And I would be like, shit, I'm not there yet. And I would get really pissed. Not at them, right? But at myself because I wasn't doing enough. And then I would be like, really mopey for a bit. And then I would just go home and be like, okay, we're gonna learn this. We're gonna do this. And just turn that energy into like huge motivation. Obviously, I hope that I don't have to point that out, but that definitely has major downsides as well, especially if you can't find a way to to deal with that better. Oh, we're back. We had some dropped frames there. But yeah. Okay, let's have a look at the next person. Next person here is Gabriella from Lithuania. I'm a graduate environment and technical artist with a passion for creating immersive video game worlds. Nice one. I'm actively looking for new opportunities to work on various creative projects. Like my work, feel free to reach out. Got a master's in game art and a bachelor in animation. Skills include 3D modeling, texturing, sculpting, shader creation, set dressing, concept art, and texture editing in Photoshop. Cool. Nice. I kind of like this. It's like a neat little summary, you know, like a mini CV almost. I do like it. So this is not only with your portfolio right now, but in general, I'm a little bit suspicious. That's probably the best word of saying it. About if you call yourself a technical artist. So I'd be curious to see what you mean by that. Cool. First project. Oh my god. A half time bird house. I had to do a double take on that because I thought I was reading it wrong. So I have timbered house based on a project, written a blog post as well. Okay, so you got your own website. One square is 1 meter. Okay, learning about textile density. That's cool. I always love to read a little blog, especially when I want to get more about the person, right? So let's see. Little time lapse. So a little bit of a background on time lapses. Like the reason why most people find time lapses so interesting is because you can kind of get like a distilled version of someone's own artistic choices that they're making, right? So for example, oh, they made like a rounded chimney on this thing in the beginning, and then they went to like a square one again, and then a round one again. So like kind of seeing like, oh, it's rounded, it's square again. Maybe, I don't know, maybe let's go for this more organic look. There's some cool stuff that you can learn from these GIFs. Oh, a little bit sad though. Okay, so I see what you're doing here. So you created a blog post where you basically talk about like your creation process, right? I love and hate that at the same point. Now, I can see your intent, and I think the intent kind of has a good purpose, right? Because you're like, hey, I want to have my portfolio focused on the cool visuals. The downside to that is though, like if I want to see breakdowns or I want to get more information, you're causing me to do an extra click. And it sounds silly, right? But you're causing me to go to an extra click on a different platform. So what that means is that now, okay, like it becomes a hassle, right? Because you got to think about it in terms of how easy it is to access the information that would require people to make a decision on whether they want to give you a job or not, right? So that is what is happening here. And if you send me to an external site, which I may not see because a lot of people are not opening their descriptions even, right? You're running the risk of me just being like, oh, there's no breakdowns here. That's a shame. Cool. Okay, moving on. Right? So that is something to be very conscious about, like how people navigate your portfolio and what you should add on your portfolio as well. The part that I do like with that intent is that you can showcase like a really deep breakdown on how you try to approach something. You can do that in a blog, but then have the condensed version on your portfolio. Maybe have a banner with breakdown and then say like 3 or 4 images to just condense like, okay, these are the textures that I use, how I use them. These are the assets that I created. These are like more the technical bits, right? And do like a little bit of a breakdown. Give us something to look at. And then what you can do is maybe at the bottom in these like captions, you could then have the link to your full breakdown at the bottom of the page, and people are more likely to click that if they're already looking at the breakdown posts anyway, right? This stuff always feels so silly to talk about, but honestly, the majority of the issues that I've encountered, especially when I was looking at portfolios myself, are down to the most effective way of conveying your process in the least amount of images, while being respectful of someone else's time. If that makes sense, right? So you kind of want to condense things down to where you're not sacrificing the information that you give, but you're respectful of like another person's time as well. So that means that you don't want to have like 30 images because that's boring. Yeah. So that's what I would do here. Definitely have like the breakdowns in your portfolio. See, this is great. So you have literally what I was just saying. Breakdown banner, and then you have your breakdown underneath it. I think that is perfect. And then you did do a good job of like presenting it as well. You kind of have like a blurred image behind it, which is good. The thing that I would do with these guys is, so for example, there's a couple here that get quite high in poly count, right? So for example, this chair is 15k polys or 15k tries, whereas this gun, which are usually like way more important, because a gun is actually like a thing that you can interact with in most environments, right? So people are going to be able to pick it up, it's going to be close to the camera, all that kind of stuff, has actually a lower poly count and is probably roughly the same size or maybe even a bit bigger, right? So what I would do is I would pick one item and do a full breakdown. So you could have like your triangle count, you could have like your UVs, you could have like your textures, all that kind of stuff. Your textures, and then the model with the wireframe. Oh my god. With the wireframe all condensed into like this one image for like a singular asset. And then you can, again, you give me like all the context that I need to make a decision on if this is like within game art pipelines or like what we expect from like a game art pipeline, right? So yeah, you could do it for one, you could do it for per asset type. So for example, if you have a unique gun, or if you have a modular thing, right? So like these cabinets, they're usually made to be modular. You can do a breakdown of both because they usually use like different pipelines too. That could be cool. But yeah, just give it a little bit of a thorough breakdown. That could be really interesting. Time-lapsey boy. Okay. It's a cool little scene. It is overall a bit, it is lacking in the roughness department, right? Where I would expect to see like a nice blend of like varnished wood and then broken wood and then all that kind of stuff, right? It could be cool. Because most of the wood kind of just reads the same at this point. Yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting little breakdown. I like the structure of that post a lot. Okay, so you kind of made like a modular kit here. This is an interesting one because I feel like you could have taken this like way further by just making a full scene with the pieces that were already there, right? Okay. Yeah, and this is kind of where we get into like the bloat factor of things, right? Like where you have a couple of different formats, a couple of different layouts, and one of them is like nicely designed, one of them is just like a raw screenshot. It gets a little bit chaotic down here. Where I do like your approach with some of the videos here and some of these guys, right? Where you have like, hey, I'm gonna try to design like an overlay. But then some of these ones are just like, I don't know what to do with this, so it kind of feels inconsistent. But yeah, I think if we look at the art itself, like I would honestly build like a full street that kind of feels like, oh, we're in like a corner of a street, or we're in like at least like a bigger street that feels like it's part of the world, rather than just, oh, I built a block, right? Kind of try to sell us on the idea of like, oh, this is a really cool set and you can use it in multiple ways and you can build multiple stories and have like all these variety of buildings. Really show like how expansive and how creative you can be with like a modular kit too, because then you're not only showcasing like, hey, I can build a modular kit, but also I can build with a modular kit as well, which is also an important skill. So that would be an idea for next time. Yeah, again, like all the context is here, right? I do like this one though. It's kind of a shame that we're not seeing the wireframe or any of the textures, but this, I like the way that this is, that you're going about this presentation. You know, I'm almost expecting to see, okay, so this is my ZBrush models. So this is like my little ZBrush section, right? And then you just have like all your textures here. And then your ref is almost like down here or something like that, right? So we're kind of scooching it in. And then you have like a wireframe on top of the whole thing as well. And then what you can do is you could toggle, you could have a screenshot with the wireframe on and off, and then kind of turn that into like a GIF that just like switches between the two with like a slight gradient in the middle or something like that. You know, so that it kind of goes from like wireframe to model, wireframe to model. I'm just thinking about it from a perspective of like, oh, I can have all the information in one thing, because I do like your sculpt and I do like how it looks in the game as well. I think you did a good job on like making the materials read. Yeah. But yeah, this post can definitely be optimized. There's so much stuff in here that could easily be like optimized. Like for example, all these individual textures, it would honestly be cool to see them in context, right? So if you look at this, you have like 3 material spheres, and then this sphere is going to point to like this tileable, and then this sphere is this tileable, and then this sphere is that tileable. Something like that, right? How do I feel about nodes and breakdowns? I don't like them personally. So the reason why I don't like nodes is, first of all, usually they're really hard to read, right? Because people make such complex graphs. I don't care. Like if I can't like disseminate like what you did in the graph, like it doesn't have any value, right? And even if you can see the nodes, I think it's the most boring form of presenting something really cool that you did, right? Because you're talking about like, hey, I've made this material that has like all this flexibility, and this is the graph. It's just like, what? I don't want to see that. I want to see what it does, right? I want to see like you toggling on like different options and seeing how it changes and just being like, oh my god, there's so much flexibility in here. So I don't mind people showcasing the way that they build something, let's say a material or tileable material or a material in Unreal, right? I don't mind that at all. I think the way that you go about it is, if you only post the nodes, that is the most boring interpretation of giving people that information, right? That's what I really have an issue with. I'm removing mine from my breakdown since I got some similar feedback. Yeah, I think there's so many interesting ways that you can do it, where if you record a little video, right, and you're just manipulating like, you have your little overlay. Let's say we're talking about like a material in Unreal. So let's say I have like my material editor open here, and you see as a floating window, right? And then the rest is just full viewport. And you see me like moving a slider left and right, and you see the adjustments happening live. And you just say like, oh, this is, you do a little bit of editing, right? So this is about the color change. Cool. You play with the slider. And this is about like the tidying of the material. Cool. You can do that in like a very engaging way, compared to making just like a picture, taking just a picture of your node setup. So it's always about, it kind of comes down to the same thing, right? Like, how do you convey information effectively while also not boring people to death, right? You want to make it, I keep coming down to the same thing. Like, you want to sell the information. You want to get people excited about like, oh my God, there's a cool little breakdown here. Like, this looks awesome. Okay. Instead of just like, oh, here's a node network. Yeah. You can upload blueprint networks, but not sure you can do the same for materials. So those that are interested can check them out. Yeah, so that would be an optional thing on top of making a cool presentation, right? So what you're talking about, because again, I always think about it in these terms, right? What you're trying to do now is something that recruiters don't care about, right? What you do want to do, if you're sharing your material so that people can check them out, that is something that other students will do, or maybe someone in the industry that might want to look into it. But usually they're not going to do that because they can't just use random stuff from the internet anyway. So I just want to make sure that that's like a different target audience that you have compared to the people that would be looking to hire you, right? But I think it could be a good idea though. It does drive extra traffic to your portfolio. And I know that we're talking about like terms that you probably never want to be talking about, but that is what it comes down to, right? Let's go through things. This is a cool little prop though. Hey, this is nice. See, this is so helpful because now I can see like, oh, okay, you got like the ends of the binoculars, you got like all these different things that are happening. This is cool. This is cool to see. The only thing that I would say that could make like a slight improvement is that we get to see the texture on the asset as well. But this stuff is cool, right? Like, this is what I wanted to see. Huh? 2K texture, 1K texture. But wait, you're cheating. Yeah, because what is happening? What is happening with the texture? Like, you have 2 burn marks here and 1 over here. And then there's like a little divot here, but there's none there. What are you doing here, Gabriella? You're trying to cheat. In all honesty though, like I don't know why. Maybe you changed the texture in the meantime? "1K is more detailed." Well, it's not. It's just different, right? It has more stuff to it. Like it definitely has like a different texture setup. Oh, this is cool. Yeah, this is cool. I like this. This stuff is really interesting, right? Like, just, okay, here's like a little quick thing that I thought it would be fun to do with my prop, you know? And it also showcases that you're thinking outside of the box, right? You're thinking like, okay, like I've made this cool little thing, but how is it going to be used in the game, right? And then And this is where the beauty kind of comes in with your presentation, right? You showcase, hey, I have done a more detailed version with a 2K texture and a less detailed version with a 1K texture, which means that you could use it in different use cases as well. So for example, if you see it, if you're just holding it in your hands or something like that, right, and you're not really getting close to it, you could use the 1K version on the right. But if you have an inspect mode and you're rotating around, it could switch to the more cinematic quality asset that is going to be on the left, right? So that could be cool to bring up as well. Yeah, I think you did a good job on this one. We're not focusing too much on like the art itself, right? We're more focusing about the presentation, and I think the presentation is really well done. So really nice. Yeah, it's interesting. I want you to continue more of this stuff on your environments then too. That would be awesome. Then we're jumping into something stylized. You have that same binocular at home? Oh shit, nice. Oh sorry Shazar, we missed some of your comments on the gun topic. The gun topic sounds so dramatic. Guns can be tough assets, surprisingly so, notwithstanding the need to do a full environment too. Maybe a more considered pre-production of what the goal of the scene is would help time management. Moving time, doing a detailed gun to other aspects of the scene that fill the screen more. I mean, that's definitely a part of it, right? Like where if you're doing both a really detailed gun and an environment, might not be the best time spent on either of those things. So yeah, I can see that comment. Because then honestly you could have just made the gun and then just have like, I don't know, maybe mega scans as a background, or maybe just build the scene behind it as like a separate thing, right? Yeah. Oh, for the search for the star and for your university assignment, you got nominated for the One to Watch badge. That is awesome, Gabriella. Amazing work. This is cool. So this is cool. I like that you're putting more time into your presentation now, which is awesome, right? I would honestly pretend that whenever you post something, it is for a competition, right? You're in it to win it. Because it seems like it definitely helps. Yeah, cool. Yeah, it does look interesting. It kind of has like a little bit of a style breakdown, if I were to say it. Like some parts feel like really low poly, right? So for example, the ham, but then other parts are like beautifully like handcrafted. So it is interesting when it comes to the style of it. Yeah. I'm yeah, I mean this was made for a competition as well. I'm a little bit confused about like the what is happening here, right? Because you have something magical happening in here. Let me try to figure this out. And you got like a bunch of sushi, you got like a bunch of meat, you got like this magical thing happening here. So yeah, storytelling is a little bit unclear to me at this point. Yeah, interesting though. Let's see. I think now we're getting sort of in the older work category, right? And I'm saying that because it is becoming like a little bit more apparent, right? That we kind of looked at the really cool stuff and we're kind of making our way backwards toward like the older stuff now. And that is also just a testament of like how much you've grown in the last year too, right? Because this feels, and this is normal, right? If you're spending so much time into it, so much time into improving, that you get to a stage like this where the assets don't necessarily hold up anymore, and it's kind of just it kind of feels a little bit more generic. Let's see. What's your workflow? Yeah. So you can definitely tell. Like you're going in like a really good direction coming up here, right? But you definitely get the feeling of like, okay, this is more like uni work, right? It kind of has that feeling towards it. Studio Arcane Challenge. So cool. So I don't know if this was provided, like if this template was provided to you, but yeah. Really cool job though. Really good. In terms of texturing, that's a really cool gun. Got some nice breakdowns. The presentation is on point as well. So I love to see it. Just the extra care that you take into your presentation, right? It helps a lot. We're just like, hey, I will take this project from beginning to end and I won't skip on like the final moments. Yeah, that was cool. Ice and a snow shader. Yeah, for this stuff, right? If you want to show a breakdown, I would do it in a video. Show all the stuff off in the video. And then if you say like, hey, first video here, a really cool overview of a scene, right? It's nothing too fancy, but it's cool, right? It adds to the material. It's not just like a sphere that we're looking at. I would potentially even maybe even cut this one out and just have the scene itself and then do a breakdown video of just, okay, here's one with bump offset, here's the subsurface profile, here's all the stuff that you can change, and like really showcase all the different aspects of your material, right? I think that could be really cool. And then 5 months ago, I think we're kind of going all over the place in terms of timeline, right? Let me have a quick look. Yeah, so posted last year, and then we got some more recent stuff coming in as well. 6 weeks. It's a team project. That is cool. It's a cool little style. Oh, and then you have like the in-game screenshots. Yeah. It would also be cool to just have like a little video that we can play, right? Did I skip over that? Just like a little video at the bottom where you say like, hey, here's some gameplay. Enjoy. It could be cool. Those projects are really valuable for showcasing that, hey, I can work in a team. I know how it is to work with different disciplines, all that kind of stuff. Really valuable for showcasing more of that side of things. Let's see. And then we got the last one here. So this is from 2 years ago. Concept art. More to come. I don't think so. It's been 2 years. Oh. Okay. I think this one is really outdated, right? So I've been working with Tag and Joy creating the race concept art and 3D modeling for the new Norwegian horse track. If you are keeping this for like professional purposes, which is kind of debatable in my opinion, I think it's better to just have like your really nice work there. I would honestly think about culling some of those pieces as well. So we had a look at the whole portfolio. Let's do a little recap here. I think overall the presentation was really good, right? So most of the presentations, interestingly enough, like the older works had better, chronologically, well, maybe not chronologically, the way that we looked at them, the older projects actually had a better care put into their presentation. So yeah, presentation is pretty good. We did have some points about the context, right? So The context meaning if you're gonna show like a wireframe with UVs, it would be nice to also see those UVs on the actual asset, right? So that we can have a look between the two. And then also, what was it? Yeah, in the shader stuff, right? Like in the material stuff, I would say that it could be condensed with a video, right? So 2 videos, or maybe like a screenshot of the environment and then a video of a breakdown while it's in the environment, right? When you're moving sliders along, that would be cool to see. Let's see, number 2 was, I'm gonna say it like culling time, right? So it's a time to think about what is my best stuff and just honestly really curate your portfolio towards it, and maybe even improve on some of the thumbnails that we have for some of the more recent things. So for example, this is a cool little project. With a little bit more time, we can really bump it up by making like a fully fledged street and making more creative use of your modular kit. And then also changing the thumbnail to make it look a little bit more interesting, right? Because now it kind of looks like an outdated kind of game just because of the lighting at this point. So that one could be improved. The rest of them are pretty good though. I will say it's a tiny thing, but like you don't need the logos anymore. I would rather you see just like, hey, this is what the project name is. Cool. That's all I need to know. I can make an argument for this one though. Like that rising star being in there. I would honestly make it a little bit bigger then, because now it's too small and you can't read what it stands for. So this is like one of the rare occasions where I will actually make an exception to talk about like, maybe you could keep that logo on there, but make it bigger. But I would definitely have a look at, let's scroll down a little bit. So I would definitely have a look at cutting this one. Potentially cutting this one as well. I think that's definitely like one of the weaker environments that you have. And the rest of them are pretty good. This has special value because it's a team project. So maybe putting that into the thumbnail as well, that could be valuable. Yeah. Let's see. Number 3. If you want to get better at becoming an environment artist, at this point, there's a couple of questions that I have. Which style do you like? Because I get that in this day and age, you kind of want to go broad, right? But it is still more valuable to have at least the style figured out so that you can cater more towards that and kind of figure, hey, I'm only gonna do stylized, right? And then within stylized, there's still so much to explore, but at least you're kind of locked into that style rather than switching between the two, because that's gonna make it harder for people to hire you on the spot, right? Apart from the occasional studio that might be small and does like a bunch of different clients. But I will say that is like not common at all, because what any studio wants to do across the board is they want to hire the best person for the job, right? And even if you are working within an outsourcing studio that has like a wide range of clients, even an outsourced studio will cater towards the studios that they want to work with, and they have a specific style, right? So it's very rare that even a studio will switch between stylized and realistic. So that would be a question that I have. Pick a style and stick with that as well. I would still keep, like, let's say you want to focus on realistic, keep the stylized stuff on your portfolio, but as like older projects, so that you can still showcase that, hey, I'm versatile, right? But I want to focus on realistic. So the style was like the one question. I want to see more dedication to storytelling. That's something that we probably bring up like a ton of time, right? But I want to see you tell like more interesting and more in-depth stories. That would be really cool to see, because you got a nice range of I can make a cool looking asset. I can make a cool looking environment. I worked on modular kits. I think you have like the base range of skills done. Now, what I want you to see, well, what I want to see from you is your focus. Where do you shine, right? That's what I'm really looking for. So I can look at your portfolio and see like, oh, this person, we would love to have them as an environment artist, for example, but we know that they can also do props to a good degree that we can put them on props as well, right? And that is going to add benefits to your portfolio, right? That's going to be a massive benefit. There was one other thing that I wanted to bring up. Oh, yes. So that's my little recap that I've done, right? So thank you so much for posting your work, Gabriella. I really enjoyed our time together. Sounds so sentimental. There is one thing that I want to go back onto. You told me in the beginning that you were a technical artist. I have not seen anything to convince me that you are, right? A lot of environment artists that work in Unreal Engine, they know how to set up a shader, right? So I don't necessarily think that you can put that on there without having more proof of you actually being a technical artist, right? Because the technical artist portfolio focuses a lot on like pipeline improvements and building cool tools and like all those kind of things. So I don't think that's necessarily true, but that helps you in your case, because if you're not showing me otherwise, right? Because I'm only seeing environment art stuff on here. That makes it simpler for me because I can just focus on you becoming an environment artist, right? So yeah, that works in your favor. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up again. But yeah, thanks so much, Gabriella. Best of luck with your future. And I hope, I don't know if you got a job right now, but I hope you will get one soon. Yeah, best of luck. With that said, I think I'm not going to go for a third one today. So we're just going to chat for a couple of minutes more because we all got a question. And then I'm just going to chill out for a bit because it's been a long day. So, hello, Rat One. Good to see you here. Good to see you. Okay, cool. We have one final question for today, and then we can just round things off and wish everyone a nice evening. But Fabricio is coming in here. Do you think it's good to learn VFX and put it on an environment art portfolio? No, it is not. It is a huge discipline by itself. So it kind of comes down to, I mean, it never hurts to have some on there, right? But the thing is, for the majority of studios, they will only hire you as a environment artist that will not do VFX, or they will hire you as a VFX artist that doesn't do environments, right? So if you really love VFX, I would consider maybe just becoming a VFX artist. If it's more just a thing of, hey, I'm just gonna focus on the environment art stuff, then I would just skip out on VFX and maybe use like asset packages or something like that. Because to make really cool looking VFX, it takes a lot of time. Is it fine to post some thumbnails to get feedback on since I'm posting my project? Yeah, sure. Let's go for it, McFal. Go for it. All right, people. I am exhausted. So I'm going to take a chill evening because tomorrow we're going to be back for Whip Wednesday. So I need to talk about a bunch of people's work tomorrow because last week we didn't have a Whip Wednesday. So I will see you all tomorrow. I wish you all a nice evening and yeah, have a good one. Bye-bye.